What if I told you there's a cheese so dangerous it's illegal? A cheese that moves, jumps, and might just keep living inside you. Casu Marzu, Sardinia's infamous maggot cheese, isn't just a culinary curiosity. It's a biohazard served with bread. It's banned by the European Union, feared by food safety regulators, and yet some people will pay top dollar to eat it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how it's made, why it's illegal, and whether eating it is an experience or a mistake you can't take back. Cheese is one of humanity's greatest culinary achievements, aged, fermented, and enjoyed in countless varieties. But one cheese has taken the aging process too far. Introducing Casu Marzu, the Sardinian delicacy that redefines what can legally be called food. Known as the world's most dangerous cheese, Casu Marzu is intentionally infested with live maggots, which break down the cheese into a soft, pungent, and slightly terrifying spread. It's banned in the European Union, illegal to sell, and yet still secretly produced in Sardinia, where it's considered a cultural treasure. So how did this biologically active cheese come to be? And more importantly, why would anyone eat it? The birth of Casu Marzu. At first, Casu Marzu is just a normal wheel of pecorino sardo. But instead of being aged like a respectable cheese, it is left outside with a hole cut into it, an open invitation for an infestation. That's when the cheese flies, or Piophila arrive. These tiny winged real estate developers lay their eggs inside the cheese, turning it into a nursery and an all-you-can-eat buffet. When the eggs hatch, thousands of maggots begin eating the cheese from the inside out. But this isn't just destruction. This is gourmet deconstruction. As the larvae devour and digest the cheese, their enzymes break down the fats, transforming the once solid pecorino into a gooey, oozing, spreadable nightmare. The texture shifts from firm and crumbly to soft and almost liquid, and the aroma grows stronger, funkier, and unmistakably alive. The process is delicate. If the maggots die too soon, the cheese becomes toxic. This means Casu Marzu must be consumed while the maggots are still alive and wiggling, ensuring both peak flavor and a completely unforgettable eating experience. After weeks of careful aging, or more accurately, active infestation, the cheese is finally ready to be served. What was once a wheel of pecorino has now become a biological battleground, and somehow a highly prized delicacy. The eating experience. Eating Casu Marzu isn't for the weak. It's traditionally served on Sardinian flatbread, pain carousel, and paired with a strong red wine, because you'll need it. But there's one small problem. The maggots can jump. When disturbed, the larvae launch themselves up to 6 inches into the air. This is why many people eat Casu Marzu while covering their eyes, because getting hit in the face with airborne cheese maggots is not part of the Mediterranean dream. As for the taste, it's intensely pungent, sharp, and burns at the back of your throat. The fermentation process gives it an almost spicy kick, while the texture is soft, spreadable, and full of movement. Tourists often react as expected. Some take a bite and convince themselves it's fine. Others immediately regret their decisions. A rare few embrace the experience, savoring the umami depth, the history, and the fact that they are now part of a very exclusive club. But if you're not a fan of moving food, there is a workaround. Placing the cheese in a sealed container forces the maggots to suffocate and jump out. This makes the cheese slightly more digestible, assuming you're okay with eating something that literally fought for its life minutes earlier. Cultural significance and black market status. Casu Marzu isn't just a cheese. It's a symbol of Sardinian identity. For generations, families on the island have perfected the art of maggot-assisted fermentation, passing down the tradition like a prized family recipe, except with significantly more wriggling. To locals, this cheese represents resourcefulness, heritage, and the unwavering Sardinian belief that no part of an animal, or in this case a dairy product, should go to waste. However, modern food safety laws strongly disagree. In 1962, Italy banned Casu Marzu, citing health risks associated with consuming live larvae and the general unhinged nature of the entire process. The European Union doubled down, classifying it as unsafe for consumption. But rather than accept this legal defeat, Sardinians did what any proud food-loving community would do. They took it underground. Today, Casu Marzu thrives on the black market. It is still secretly produced in small villages where word of mouth and the right connections can lead you to a wheel of forbidden dairy. Prices can be steep, with a single round of Casu Marzu fetching up to 3 times the price of standard pecorino. because nothing says luxury like illegal, maggot-infested cheese. Despite its outlaw status, locals are fighting to have it recognized as a protected cultural product. They argue that it's an essential part of Sardinian heritage and deserves the same respect as any other regional specialty, maggots or not. Some producers have even attempted to work within legal guidelines, hoping to sanitize the process just enough to satisfy health regulations without losing the essence of what makes it special. But whether legal or not, Casu Marzu continues to be made, eaten, and celebrated. Because no matter what the law says, Sardinians remain firm in their belief that some traditions are worth keeping, especially the ones that jump off your plate. The dangers and health risks. Casu Marzu isn't just famous for its strong flavor and illegal status. It's also known as the world's most dangerous cheese, and for good reason. The most obvious risk. You are eating something that is still alive. The maggots in Casu Marzu aren't just decorative. They're actively wriggling, jumping, and digesting the cheese as you eat it. If you're not careful, they might digest a little bit of you too. The biggest health concern is intestinal myiasis, a horrifying condition where live maggots survive digestion and take up residence inside the human body. If the larvae make it past the stomach without being properly chewed, they can burrow into the intestinal lining, leading to pain, nausea, vomiting, and the immediate need to rethink every life choice that led to this moment. Beyond the maggot problem, Casu Marzu's unregulated fermentation process also raises concerns. Because the cheese is aged in the open air, it's vulnerable to contamination from harmful bacteria and other pathogens. If it's stored too long or if the maggots die inside, the cheese can become toxic, making it less of a delicacy and more of a biological hazard. For these reasons, many people who eat Casu Marzu take extra precautions. Some diners remove the maggots before eating, while others prefer to place the cheese in a sealed container to force the larvae to jump out before consumption. Of course, the bravest, or most reckless eaters, insist on consuming it the traditional way, wiggling and all. Despite the risks, Casu Marzu's black market demand remains strong. For many, the thrill of eating forbidden, living cheese outweighs the potential dangers. After all, some foods are spicy, some are pungent, but only one cheese actively fights back. The final verdict, is it worth trying? Casu Marzu is more than just a cheese. It's a challenge, a cultural statement, and a test of one's ability to suppress basic survival instincts. It's the kind of food that separates the bold from the cautious, the adventurous from the sensible, and the curious from those who would rather not risk maggot-related complications. For those who love extreme foods, Casu Marzu is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The cheese is rich, pungent, deeply fermented, and completely unlike anything else on the planet. Fans praise its intense umami depth, its creamy texture, and the undeniable thrill of eating something that's technically still moving. But for many, the experience is too much to handle. Between the jumping maggots, the burning aftertaste, and the small but real risk of intestinal regret, it's easy to see why Casu Marzu remains one of the world's most feared foods. There are plenty of strong, complex cheeses out there that don't require a high tolerance for pest management. And yet, despite being illegal, hazardous, and biologically active, Casu Marzu refuses to disappear. Sardinians continue to make it, eat it, and fight for its recognition, believing that no amount of health codes should stand in the way of a beloved tradition. So, should you try it? That depends. Are you the kind of person who enjoys pushing culinary boundaries? Do you thrive on tasting forbidden, borderline dangerous foods? Or are you just looking for a surefire way to traumatize your taste buds? If so, congratulations! You are exactly the kind of person who would eat Casu Marzu. But be warned, this isn't just a cheese you try and forget. Once you've had Casu Marzu, it stays with you, in your memory, in your senses, and if you're not careful, possibly in your intestines.